got a trade in my inbox right now, and I need your help with it. All right. So it's 12 team super flex PPR. It's a 1.75 tight end premium, start 11. It is give Calvin Ridley, get a 23 third and a 24 second.
I'll hold on to Ridley.
Yeah, I mean, start 11, you could argue the liquidation of getting the picks is beneficial for a guy that's not going to score points at all, but it almost feels like you want to have some Ridley shares going into the offseason.
Yeah, man.
Just for that reason, like I want to have a couple of them hanging around where it's like I don't need to trade them, but if I can, then I have almost like an extra draft pick to work with right around free agency, rookie draft time. Like he feels like he's going to be one of those where people will buy in. People will be willing to give up, a pick on the clock or something like that for Ridley. And I think it's going to benefit him that he didn't play this year because people are going to be more excited to buy him next year. So, yeah, I think I'd probably hold Ridley here.
Yeah, because you imagine Ridley playing this year. We can't even get targets for Drake London and freaking Kyle Pitts. What the hell are we going to do with Calvin Ridley? We get 3 targets a game? Yeah.
Right. Okay, well, counter might be coming your way, Mr. Ali. You know who you are. You're listening. All right. So, yeah, guys, big day. We got Calvin Ridley to Jacksonville. We got Nahim Heinz to Buffalo, Jeff Wilson to Miami, Hawk to Minnesota, and Claypool to Chicago.
So let's start with why'd you go that order? You went the stupidest, worst ones to the best ones.
Okay. Well, so let's talk Claypool to Chicago. What do you think there?
So, look, I'm a tea leaf reader, right? I look at things that teams do and I extrapolate and formulate and go, well, if this team just gave up a second round draft pick, one that's probably going to be pretty good for this wide receiver here, and they're a team that's been dropping back to pass more often, and they need someone that can, be an actual threat outside of Darnell Mooney, who's an excellent wide receiver 3 in fantasy football and on an NFL team. I'm pretty stoked about this Claypool move. I bought him in one league from Scott. I traded him in another, but yeah, I'm all in on this, and I love this for Justin Fields. It's nice that his team has actually rewarded him for playing well the last 4 weeks.
Unfortunately, the higher volume for the Bears has been 24 pass attempts over the last 5 games. So we're sitting here cheering higher volume, yet that's still the 3rd lowest in the league. So low-hanging fruit in terms of what your expectations are. I do agree it signals that they're trying to help Justin Fields out.
Yep.
The only drawback is they paid a lot to get Chase Claypool. They paid a high second. That's probably a pretty good receiver in next year's draft that they're passing on. I think this also signals that, how much are the Bears going to spend on weapons next year? Like, I think they have other needs to where it's like, oh, they're not. I see people saying, oh, they're going to draft a receiver in the 1st round, and then Fields is going to have stacked weapons. It's like, are they really going to draft a receiver in the 1st round, or are they maybe going to fish for another one with their other 2nd rounder, or maybe they're even going to take one later? So this kind of feels like this is the move instead of drafting a rookie receiver next year, and then they get to pay Claypool probably $20 to $25 million a year. I mean, I like the fact that Fields is getting weapons. My only drawback is, could it have been better, but it's good for Claypool, even if he ends up being a, I don't know, 22 to 25% market share guy, the volume has to go up or that's not going to matter much. But clearly if you have Claypool shares, he was my highest owned receiver coming into today. So it was nice to have the movement because it just creates a movement window where you can buy, sell, move. People are interested in him again. A week ago, it was like, yeah, okay, he's just another receiver. No one really cares. So I did move a couple shares, but yeah, I think it's overall good for him and good for Fields. But what could have been instead? I think it's a great move for the Steelers. Like, this is probably a winning move for the Steelers, but that doesn't matter for fantasy or dynasty.
So early 23 second or Chase Claypool?
I'll take Claypool.
Second.
Still taking the second, Scott?
No, I'm taking Claypool. Scott. The problem with Scott is he's not a dreamer. He's not an optimist. He's not a look. This is reason for hope, man. They gave up a 2nd round draft pick for this dude. They're gonna feature him. 25% target share minimum. I'm excited for this Claypool move. He's going to dominate targets there. It's going to be, dude, it's going to be a match made in heaven, him and Justin Fields. This is going to be like a light version of Josh Allen, Steph Diggs, Jalen Hurts. What do you call that guy? AJ Brown. This is like the much like lower brand version. Like, you know what I mean? Like it definitely like you could tell the ingredients aren't the same and it tastes a little funky, but it's going to get you by. That's what
it's like worse than the generic, is what you're saying.
I'm saying it's basically
like
generic. It's like slightly above generic, right? You know what I mean?
Well, here's the tangent I'm going to go off on real quickly. The answer to the question, a early second or Claypool, I think it's fair. That's what it's going to cost for you to buy him. I guess I look at it and I'm starting to see, and I kind of had this revelation over this past weekend. After we saw Deontay Foreman smash and we saw Jamal Williams smash, you still can't get seconds for those guys because people go, oh, they're running backs. They don't have any pedigree. They were never starters before. Why the hell would I pay for a second? You're right. At the same time, you go try to trade like David Montgomery for a second. People go, oh, no, he's not that good anymore. So you get like, you see this market to where almost every example, unless it is a team literally desperate for points, it is rather have the second. If it's a backup running back, clearly it's not worth a second. If it's a starter that isn't that good, that's on his way down, I'd rather have the second. If it's a receiver that's in like this nondescript range of it's like, oh, he's just another guy, rather have the second. That's where I see Claypool. So it's not that he's not good. He's moved into this range because of the trade. But when you really start to think about like, what would you rather have? A top 15 pick or a receiver that's at best probably a top 30 receiver? I think the scarcity is on the pick side in almost every one of these trades. So that's why I would lean the second.
Top 24 wide receiver. I'll take a top 30 wide receiver all day over a second round draft pick. Because we're looking at Terrace Marshall. We're looking at most of the dudes I can't even remember because they busted out and we've already forgotten their names. To be quite honest with you.
How about T. Higgins or Michael Pittman?
So you picked a couple outliers. That's good.
You picked the shitty ones.
You picked two outliers. We can't even remember half the wide receivers that we've drafted in the second round of rookie drafts in the last decade.
We can pick both sides of the argument. I guess I'm looking at it as I would rather be holding, especially on these teams where I've had Claypool. I looked at my Claypool shares today and I go, I have 11 shares of Claypool and they're on like various teams. They're not necessarily helping me win or tank or whatever. They're just there. So doesn't it make sense if you can kind of already sense that he hasn't had any impact to take the picks just for the sake of I want more flexibility going into the offseason?
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
Let's talk.
That's why I like playing with guys like Shane because he's like, oh man, he just sees an alpha on Justin Fields' offense and boom, let me buy.
TJ Hockenson, what do you think about that move to Minnesota?
He's got a better quarterback, but he's on a worse offense, if that's possible. So I'm going to say the same thing I said about Irv Smith. I was so excited when O'Connell came over because I was like, oh, he's going to fill the Tyler Higbee role. And then Irv Smith was like, no. I'm going to continue to get hurt all the fucking time because that's what I do. So hopefully Hockenson can play that Higbee role because he's better than Higbee. But I still think he's a low-end tight end one. I mean, I don't know how excited I can get. He might challenge Dallas Goedert for like that tight end 5 role, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I think so. Irv Smith sucks. I mean, this is a clear upgrade, and Irv Smith's out for the year. Like it's to the point where Irv Smith is Jonnu Smith. Like he's not quite cuttable, but he's right there. So I think that's one thing where clearly they needed to upgrade. My last Destination Dynasty show, I talked about Kirk Cousins actually has been a major disappointment this year in terms of carrying his weapons. I thought this would be an offense where Justin Jefferson, but man, you could start Adam Thielen, KJ Osborne, Irv Smith. He's going to be able to support other players, but he's bottom like 5% in the league in terms of yards per attempt and air yards per attempt. So like he's basically just helping Justin Jefferson with volume. So maybe this changes their offense a little bit. So I think there is room for a second target there to kind of be elevated by Kirk Cousins because maybe it's Adam Thielen and KJ Osborne just aren't that good. And that's the issue. So maybe that's why they traded for Hockenson. They need a little bit more of a dynamic offense of adding a tight end in there, not Irv Smith. So I'm interested, but the problem is he's already like tight end 6 or 7, and you now have to pay a premium because he got traded. So
Right.
I'm good. Like I'm not adding to like David Njoku or something like that to get TJ Hockenson. So yeah, I'm probably not buying, but it is a step up for both him and the Vikings offense.
What do you think about the Lions offense? Sans Hockenson. What changes there?
It's a bad offense that has basically had 8 good quarters this year, and then everything else has been bad. So it gets worse.
Well, I mean, they were good offense for what, like 3 weeks there?
8
4
quarters.
weeks?
Go back and look at when they scored against Washington and against
8
Philly
quarters.
and against Seattle. It's been 8 quarters other than the Seattle game, which was basically like they're either playing from way behind or they're blowing a big lead. They've never really had a game where they just put it all together. So
I mean, they're not a good team. Jared Goff isn't any good, but I mean, Amon-Ra St. Brown is still going to be a target hog there. I mean, that's the only difference. And then when DeAndre Swift gets hurt again, which he's due for like now, because he played 1 game, then I guess we'll need to figure out who that second target is. I guess it'd be Josh Reynolds at this point. He's not on the IR, right? It's DJ Chark on the IR. Yes, I guess it'll be Josh Reynolds, but it's not going to be anyone that I really want until Jameson can play football again, which probably
it's going to be
won't
Brock
till
Wright
next year.
That's
Brock
the tight end,
Wright.
Shane.
Yeah.
Raz freak. 921 Raz. Go pick up some Brock Wright.
That's fine. If TJ Hockenson,
hopefully he'll process tomorrow on a lot of my teams.
If TJ Hockenson can't succeed there, then some dude named Brock Wright isn't going to, and that's a wrestler in the WWE.
I don't think it is, right? Is it Brock Lesnar? No.
Yeah, same difference.
Same
Brock
difference.
Wright is a Notre Dame tight end, Shane. You need to respect.
Hey, in case anyone's missing
Notre
it,
Dame tight end.
I just wanted to give you a shout out. 3-0 Phillies.
Yep.
Houston.
Yeah, thanks to everyone who's on here. We have 208 people joining us, even though the World Series is going on. But hey, just look at Shane. You can do live streaming and World Series at the same time. So thank you for doing that.
So when Shane turns his head and looks behind him, that he's clearly watching the baseball game.
Oh, wait till they see the Travis Etienne video with you looking up at the Bengals game, and Shane is looking over at whatever the Bengals game probably. But it's great. It's great. But no, thank you very much for joining. If you wouldn't mind hitting that thumbs up, give us a like. We'd appreciate that. Easiest way to help our little channel here, which is growing. We just surpassed 4,000, which is exciting.
Yes, thank you, guys.
All right, so yeah, let's keep getting into stuff. Let's talk quickly about Nahim Heinz to Buffalo. What are your thoughts on that? Little bump for him. I mean, he's on a better offense now.
I'm just gonna let Shane go on this one. It's a sad day.
James. Is this James Cook buy?
Yeah. So this is NFL teams. Whenever you think that NFL teams are really smart, they do things like this. They're like, you know what we could do? Let's get a less good version of James Cook, who just had his best game of the season, and add Nahim Heinz to this team because that's what we need. So Nahim Heinz isn't good at football. He's going to steal touches from Devin Singletary. He's going to somehow stop James Cook from getting on the field. Basically, he's just going to ruin any running back production you hoped for out of there. So that's big L. That's what you're looking at. Nahim Heinz is a trash can. He's like a slightly more athletic Theo Riddick. Like Scott made this point on his podcast today, and he didn't make it in the same way. But he talked about how teams don't throw to Theo Riddick anymore. They don't do that anymore. Good teams. Bills were like, you know what? We're a good team, and we need an athletic Theo Riddick on our roster. That's what we're going to do. I don't care about this from a football stance. I hope Buffalo loses every game for the rest of the year, and then all their running backs go down, and the only one that's left standing is James Cook, and he refuses to play.
My point, articulated a little differently, was that I don't think a team has a Nahim Heinz on the team and they go, that's where we want to go with the ball if we can help it. He fits a specific role, but is it good for fantasy? Not necessarily. Like Nahim Heinz's best spot was with Matt Ryan throwing it 53 times a game and doing it 4 yards per attempt. That was Nahim Heinz's best shot to probably be fantasy relevant. He's on a better offense. He's going to have some games. He's one of those players where now you just go, I'm going to start him because he's on the Bills and he's going to get touches. And I'm just going to hope that the efficiency of the offense is going to put him in a position 8 times a game where anytime he gets the ball, he could go for a 28-yard touchdown. And it's like, oh, wow, I started Nahim Heinz. But you're not starting him going, I'm going to get a floor of 6 catches like you might have thought you were going to get earlier on the year with the Colts. I think it actually makes every Buffalo Bill except for Diggs and Gabe Davis hard to play. Like they were already splitting like the slot work with McKenzie and Shakir and Dawson Knox. And now you add in a guy like Heinz. Like Heinz is more of like a gnat that's just going to steal targets from all those guys.
Yep.
But I'm not sure if he's necessarily startable. So it's like they have 5 guys between Singletary, Heinz, Shakir, McKenzie, and Knox. You almost want to play any of them if you can because they're on the Bills, but then you're going to get a lot of low numbers if you play most of them consistently. So I think it's just another weapon. They wanted it since McKissick. They drafted James Cook. I'm curious what Shane's doing with James Cook because historically you don't just say, oh, well, the guy couldn't get on the field in year 1. Year 2, he's going to smash like that. Typically we don't wait for guys in year 2.
Yeah.
Hi, Shane.
Shane is he's got his arms up. What's the score now?
4-0. The good guys are beating the crap out of those evil subhumans from Houston, cheating bastards. James, look here, it's an L on James Cook. There's no other way to look at it, right? When you just read the tea leaves, like NFL teams make poor decisions. I finally gave up on James Cook and was like, all right, I'm embracing Devin Singletary. The Bills finally trust in him. They believe he's a good running back based on what they're doing. And then they went out and traded for trash can Nahim Heinz. Like, if I think that little of Nahim Heinz, that tells you what I think it does to James Cook. Like, I can't move him. If someone wants to offer me a second, sure. If I have to give him a third and James Cook to get a second back, yeah, we're done. It's fine. It's life. Sometimes you look, NFL teams don't always make the right moves. They don't make the right decisions. And this is one of those where they've made a poor decision. They've gotten a less good player and decided that's who they want to run with. So I hope they lose the rest of the season.
Do you sell James Cook for a third?
No, I'll just hold him for that because what'll happen in 2 years? I'll be buying James Cook when he's playing for the New Orleans Saints and he gets 3 starts for them when Alvin Kamara is 35 years old. You know what I mean? Like,
but
he's already entered that realm.
Aren't you a little overexposed though to James Cook? Does Dynasty Planet show you have 90% exposure to James Cook? I'm just messing with you.
A little lower than that. Look, but that's the thing. So what am I going to do? Am I going to sell him for a third? Like a third's not even a third is what you get when you add something to a trade, right? You were like, hey, throw in a third. You don't trade a player for a third. What the hell is a third going to do for you? Not a damn thing. You just hold on to James Cook. And you hope when Nahim Heinz gets hurt, and they have to play James Cook, and he does exactly what he did last week when he was the best player on the field. Well, except for Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen, and Gabe Davis, except for like 7 people. But you hope that he gets another shot and that he does it again. And then maybe the Bills go, oh, you know what? Maybe we should try that again. Like they were kind of forced to do with Devin Singletary. They kept trying to kill Devin Singletary. Devin Singletary just keeps going out there and going, all right, but I'm good at this football stuff.
All right, let's move on to our audience here. Cameron Spaceman, thank you very much for the super chat. What is it worth to trade back from 101 Bijan to 102 Gibbs in a 12-team start 8 full PPR 1 QB? I have Watson, Chase, Jefferson, Pitts, JMO, and Ridley. So definitely has some good foundational pieces there. What do you think, guys? Moving back from 101 to 102, would you do it? And if you would, what would it cost?
A lot. I mean, quite frankly.
How about 24 first?
All right, done.
Done.
I guess it wasn't that much, but it's a lot. I mean,
that's a lot.
A first to move back 1 pick is pretty a good bit.
I like
Scott
Bijan in there because, like, all of a sudden today, Calvin Ridley matters. Throwing him in that question.
Relevant. Scott, Bijan or Jahmyr Gibbs and a 24 first
in a start 8. Part of me just wants to say who's the best player I can get for Bijan, or just draft him as the best player. I mean, I get it. You're getting the 102. 102 is probably still a locked-in starter. It's not even for sure it's going to be Jahmyr Gibbs. Like, he's probably the favorite, but it's not like it's a guarantee. Could be another running back that goes in round 2, and it's like an awesome spot.
Zach Charbonnet.
Like Zach Evans, Zach Charbonnet, Blake Corum, any of those guys could go to a spot and we're like, damn, that's a locked-in starter. So 101 to 102 right now, it's taking on a little more risk. At 101 to 102, I think you're better off probably waiting until March or April to make that deal. But then it may not be on the table if the people look at 102 and 104 is like that tier's the same. I'm not going to trade back for, the 102 when I can just get the 104. So I guess if you want to lock in the 101 now, that's a fair price paying that extra first.
All right.
Oh,
thanks again, Cameron.
Oh, he's moving back. Yeah, that's a good idea. Look, if you can get an extra first for moving back from Bijan to Gibbs, look, Bijan's generational, but he's not going to score 4 times the points of every other player in the league. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like he's going to go out there and drop 50 bombs on people while the people behind him are getting 15.
Okay, let's go on to another one here. Let's help Sean out real quick. Inbox trade, 12-team Superflex, Zach Wilson and Cam Akers or Najee Harris.
Well, congratulations, Sean,
Zach
because you
Wilson.
found one of the few trades that I'd prefer Najee Harris on. So good job, Najee.
You're taking Najee in that one, huh?
Yes.
Man, I think you have a better shot of getting something else for Zach Wilson than you do. Akers is basically free, which I'm okay collecting Akers for free. I honestly think if you put Zach Wilson on the market because he's a quarterback, you have just as good a shot of getting 2 seconds or something for him than you would Najee Harris. I think I'd prefer the package because I get a free Cam Akers, and that might not be anything, but it's a free Cam Akers. Yeah, I'd take him that side. Najee is go try to sell Najee in a league. Nothing.
Yeah, you're not selling him.
But here's the thing. Yeah. There's nothing that's going to go upward for Najee except for it's a new year and his outlook is going to be the exact same. How many touches they're going to give him. If it's not a shit ton, then no one's going to be excited about him. So I just want to get out.
I will say this about Zach Wilson, right? Because everyone's been trashing how poorly he's played. Literally 4 weeks ago at this time, we were saying the same thing about Justin Fields, who just ripped off 4 top 10 QB weeks in a row. So it can change quickly. Now, Zach Wilson has a longer track record of looking like a trash can. But just know that, that sometimes with young quarterbacks, this is kind of just the path that they take. So, but for me, I'd be like, that's fine. I'm moving on from Najee here and hope that he doesn't get injured this year and then hope that next year it's better.
All right, moving on to JT. Thank you very much for the super chat, man. Calvin Ridley and a 2025 fourth for my early to mid 23 second. Just traded Dameon Pierce for a 24 early to mid first and 2024 fourth. Did I win the trade? Okay, so there's a couple pieces there. Should he give up his mid 23 second for Calvin Ridley and a 25 fourth? That's how I read that first one.
I don't know what a 25 fourth is. So yes, it's fine to give up your
25 fourth. I like the 4th round in 25, just saying. But you're okay giving up the mid 23 second for him?
Yes.
For Ridley? Okay. And then just traded Dameon Pierce for an early to mid 24 first. Did he win that trade?
Look, I'm on the trade Dameon Pierce for a first in any year prior to 2025 train. So yes, I like that. Good job.
Yeah,
liquidation, right? That's what both of these deals were. Get the pick. Get the pick.
Liquidation. Okay. So thanks again, JT. Appreciate that. So we will hide that one here. Trade made today. Well, here, let's go to we've got Charlie, the Facebook disruptor at the top here. Y'all are the best. Another great roster review. Thanks. Thank you, Charlie.
Appreciate that.
Scott and Shane definitely do a good job, and we hit the pause button briefly on the reviews so we can get caught up with the ones that we have. So you may have seen that. Look at the looks on their faces. Like, good Lord. So if you're still waiting on yours, we know who you are, and you will get them soon. Here was Charlie's question, strategy question. Thank you very much, man. In a rebuild, strong everywhere but RB. Is mid, late second, and a third more valuable than 3/3? Is that earlier pick worth more than later ones? Volume or quality?
Historically, I would take the 3/3 over the late second because it starts to drop off right around like the 206 to 212 range. Like that's where it starts to flatten off. And I think you have more, put it this way, the late second in a trade right now, I think can garner you more. Like it can maybe garner you one of those players we were talking about earlier, like the Claypools or the Ridleys or, a running back that's more than just a spot start. But I think as soon as we fast forward to the offseason, once that pick becomes a number and it's the 209 versus the 302, 304, 306 or something like that, I think you'd much rather have the 3/3 than you would the 209. Yeah, you're going to miss out on a tier of players, maybe one tier. But I also feel like there's a lot of times where you're in the midst of a draft and you get to that late second, someone's willing to trade back a couple spots and take 2 for 1. Like they might take the 202 and the 20 or 302 and 306 for 209, and you still net a third rounder in there, but you're able to move up and get a player you want. So I'd rather have the more picks in that range once you get to the off season.
Yeah, that's definitely a timing thing. Right now, that second is worth more because it's a second, right? It's that whole psychological thing when we talk about first. Obviously, not as strong because it's a second as opposed to a first, but I can do more with a second. If I offer you a second for Leonard Fournette, you go, oh, I'll think about that. I offer you 3/3 for Leonard Fournette, you go, what's wrong with you? Like, stop, just stop, dude. Like, are you just going to offer me every third you have? And you take offense and usually yell at me meanly. You specifically, Clay, but that's airing our laundry.
We'll take this offline. This is good too. Jeff B. Shane is spicy when the Phillies are on. Yes, he is. And we love it. Okay, let's go to another one here. That question you started was great. What about, are you worried about Indy shutting down JT? Sell? Price? Thank you, David, for the super chat. What do you think, guys?
Shutting down? No. Because they're not shutting anybody down, because honestly, they're still going to be in the playoff race, whether you think they can make the playoffs or not. Like, they're still in the mix for at least another 6 to 8 weeks. I mean, it's not like they're going to get completely buried. Now, they may be buried after a month. You might be looking at it like that. There's no way they make the playoffs. But I mean, had they won the other day, like, they're in the playoffs, basically. Like, they're by default, they're right behind the Chargers for the last spot. So, like, are they necessarily just going to start shutting players down? I think that's probably more of like a worry for the NFL, but I don't think for fantasy it's going to impact it. If you just do the math on, like, okay, your fantasy playoffs start week 15, the odds that he's just completely shut down, I think, is really, really low. I'm more worried that he's played on this injury a couple weeks now. Like, if it keeps coming to issue, it's almost like you wish he would have just sat out another week instead of constantly questionable. Like, it feels like the kind of thing that maybe it really was a high ankle sprain, but they didn't call it that. But really, he shouldn't have played after, missing only 2 weeks. And so he probably should have sat longer. So that's what worries me more, is they shut him down because he's not healthy versus they're out of the playoff race.
Ooh, Sex Find Biz has joined the chat.
Thank you for joining. Does she super chat or no?
No,
does she have a question? No,
she had a few. She was just telling us where all the hot ladies are.
Got it.
Yeah, the NFL teams don't generally shut down players when they're in contention at all for a playoff spot, because NFL coaches know you just make the playoffs, there's a good chance you don't get fired, which is kind of what they want to do. You can't sell JT right now. I mean, just think about, we've talked about it, and you didn't release that yet, but I'll just say, you can't get Travis Etienne for him right now. You can't get Kenneth Walker for him right now. Maybe you can get Breece Hall. But the sales price, the price is down. The market's down on them because we have the attention span of goldfish. And quite frankly, Indianapolis's offense is really bad. They're not scoring touchdowns, so it's going to be near impossible for him to score touchdowns. So you're just going to have to hold and hope that he doesn't get injured or more injured.
So Scott, we know about your trade the other day where you bought him, but right now, are you guys giving a projected mid-23 first for Jonathan Taylor?
Yeah, I think if you could get
on a
him
contender,
for one single first, I'm okay with it, because I actually think you're buying into some future value there, even if you're only giving a regular first, because you're not taking a lot of risk on top. I think it's when you get into the 2 firsts for a running back, then you start getting into it. There's some bad bets on your side, even if it is Ken Walker, even if it is Etienne, even if it is Breece Hall before he got hurt. When you're starting to dip into that 2 first price, it's so easy just to go the other way and say, all right, I can save my 2 firsts, go buy other running backs cheaper. Like, you can go buy like someone like Raheem Mostert for 2/3, and he can expire at any point. But at what point is, how many thirds equal a first? Like, how many times can you get by when spots start running? Exactly. Now you're not going to be able to get 100 of them. So they don't just grow on trees where you just go add 4 more and start trading them away. But I think the idea is, unless you just have no running backs and it's like I can get JT for a first and a second, then okay, I could do that. But it has to be very specific to my roster. It's not just, oh, let me go buy him just because I think he's going to be better in the future. That's not how we view running backs.
No, so I'll say this. I'd be okay giving up a 23 first for him. Specifically because I'd be hoping that he's going to be better next year. I wouldn't even make that deal expecting him to be better this year. Like I just said,
Right.
That would be buying him now at that price would be me going, all right, he's still Jonathan Taylor.
It's still pretty good value.
The Colts are going to do something with this O-line. It's going to get better. Eventually they have to have a quarterback, right? Probably. Maybe they're lucking to PJ Walker. I don't know. And we'll get him back up to 18 points a game, maybe 20 points a game.
Yep. Devin, trade made today, 12-team Superflex, start 9, half PPR, gave Cousins, Fournette, a 23 third, got Ramondre Stevenson, and a 24 first. How did I do?
Good with it. Honestly, he got the better running back, and he got basically a first plus for Cousins. So I'm okay with it.
Yeah,
especially if you have a couple other quarterbacks.
Yeah, it depends on the QB room, but if you gave gave Cousins without getting one in return, you must be okay. That's your in your QB room. So in which case I'm fine with it.
And Cousins is one of those guys where you just know, like you can go and look at like his ADP track for the last 3 years. It's just flat. He's
flat.
Always like a guy you never really can sell for what the market price. So really you can argue, even if he's your QB2 and someone comes to you and says, I'm giving you a first or a first plus, it's hard because we're all in those situations where it's like, man, I know this is the right thing to do, but he's my QB2 and I'm 6-2. I can't trade him for a first, but you also know like you are foregoing probably any opportunity to get a better offer if you don't take that. So I like,
and that's what I was going to say is no one wants to give you a first of any year for Kirk Cousins ever. Even when he's having a really good year, and they're still like, no, he's like Derek Carr, and you're like, no, he's not. Like, shut up. But 24 first, yeah, take it. That's the only time you'll ever be able to do it, probably.
Yeah. We got this super chat from Dan. Did he have a question, or is he just a really nice guy? Just
I couldn't
throwing $5 at us.
Yeah, I couldn't find it. I'll look again, Dan. Though, if you did have a question and I'm just missing it, please hit us up again.
I think blank means Shane. Whatever's in your head right now, talk about.
Yeah.
So it's 4-0.
Most of it.
4-0. Bryce Harper, look, you can't start celebrating yet. You got to score more runs. We've seen this. The Houston team's really good, and they cheat a lot. So when you cheat, you're always in the game.
Yep. Thank you, Dan. Yeah, put your question back in the comments if you had one and we missed it. Avatar, thank you for your super chat. Appreciate it. Bought Pittman for 2 seconds, a 23 and a 24. And sold him 12 hours later for a mid 23 first. Good. Great.
Dude, that's
you're mean. We learned something about you today.
Yeah, this is what you're supposed to do in life, right?
Yes.
This is like Prop Joe said. You buy for a nickel and sell for a dime. This, like, if you were selling crack cocaine, I couldn't be more prouder because this is the way you do it, right? Just perfect.
Does he like hide the first trade from the league? They see him go for 2 seconds and then someone goes, man, let me go in with my mid first,
Yeah.
You know what that was someone goes, I can't believe he got him for 2 seconds. Like, I wanted him. I would have paid more than that. And he goes to him and he goes, guess what? I'll pay you more than that. And you go, yes, you will. And we have a deal, my friend.
Yeah.
Would you buy Pittman for a late 23 first right now? Is he one of those guys that you'd buy? No. The QB situation's a little murky. Team's a little murky.
I think he's just. I mean, coming into the year, his market share was. I know someone criticized me in the comments for saying target share, or market share, or intertwining them. I use them interchangeably, but I usually say market share. There it is. Sam said target share,
Charles.
market share. It's. I always say market share, but target share, market share, whatever. But he's under 20% for his career, and so like. You needed a high volume offense where he was out getting 25%, and now it's going to be let's just say a Falcons, Bears, Titans type offense going forward. So yeah, I'm just out. He's just a guy. Another one of those receivers is not worth the first. You had your window, it's gone.
I mean, he's still sitting at 25% for this year. So, and he's at 8.
But it's now going to be 25% of 26 attempts a game. So it's basically a slightly better version of Drake London.
Yeah, no. I get that, but what I'm saying is we look at peripherals and go, all right, this is what we should bank on. Target share. Do you earn them? Are you earning targets? And he's earning targets. He's earning a 25% share. Now, if they get a good quarterback, one that can throw the ball forward, as opposed to whatever it is their quarterbacks have been doing, then I mean, he's the wide receiver 14 on the year. So if he sees, and I know this is a dangerous game to play because I played it with DJ Moore his entire career, but if he sees any improvement at quarterback, he definitely could be a wide receiver 1. But I don't want to give a 23 first to find that out.
Okay, fair. Let's go to
Hey,
one.
300 people. Thank you so much.
We hit 300. 300
Mm.
beautiful people. You look great out there. Appreciate you joining. 300 people. What are your thoughts on Rondale Moore? But we'll start with Scott and Shane. What do you think on him? This is a question we got. Long-term thoughts on Rondale?
Shane can go first. I have a couple thoughts, but Shane, go ahead.
So he wasn't the second option in that offense until Marquise Brown went down and DeAndre Hopkins showed up, right? But he was getting targets and he's getting used. And I just wrote him up in my fantasy data article that's coming out, I don't know, probably Thursday. His market share is like, geez, now Scott's got me all screwed up. His target share, his target share is sorry, where's it at? Oh, whatever. He's got 20 targets over the last 3 weeks, but 2 of those weeks he had like 8 and 8 targets, and one of those weeks he had like 2 or something to that effect. I think he's fine as a wide receiver 2 for an NFL team. It's just when Marquise Brown comes back, then what? You know what I mean? It's just he's going to get ethered. There's not going to be enough work for him, unfortunately. But I think he's a good guy to hold right now, and maybe if they move on from Hopkins, you know what I mean, he can maintain some type of decent target share, even though they're completely different types of receivers.
Yeah, I mean, his ADOT this year is still under 5, and he's caught 90% of his targets in his career. And then you look at his air yards, they're screamingly low. So it's one of those things where it's like, even if he gets, let's say he hits a 20% market share, but it's a sub 5 ADOT. And if you combine last year, which I know people want to look at last year and go, let's throw that out because that was last year and it was like embarrassingly low, like 1.5 or something like that. But where's the upside, you know? Even if he gets 20% of the targets and Arizona throws at a pretty high rate, like their neutral pass rate's in the middle of the league, but their volume is extremely high. They're like top 5 in the league in attempts. So the way they're playing fits Rondale Moore, right? Like if Kyler Murray's going to throw 45 times at a 5.5 yards per attempt, like that's right up Rondale Moore's alley. But are you banking on this offense staying this exact same way for years to come? Or no, we kind of hope it doesn't. So I think right now is like the prime time for him to benefit, yet he's playing with DeAndre Hopkins, historical target hog, Zach Ertz, historical target hog for a tight end, Marquise Brown, historical target hog when he comes back. So like where is he going to earn his keep, you know? Like right now is where he's earning his keep, but what is he? Top 40 receiver at best? Top 30, top 40? Like this seems like his peak.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm kind of like, he's one of those guys, if you can get out for the top 18 pick, I'd rather re-roll next year. Even if I bust, I'd rather re-roll than just be like, I'm in on Rondale Moore because I just don't see him going anywhere but like where he is.
Yeah, and if you're in really shallow leagues, you know, start 9, start 10, like chances are he's not going to be relevant on your team, you know, starting on your roster. So if he ever gets to the point where you can get a top 18 pick, just like Scott said, re-roll because at least you have the flexible pick to be able to attach that to someone and buy something better. All right, cool. Yeah, just wanted to bring him up. Joey Cheesesticks, thank you very much for the super chat, my friend. He says, love Claypool. Bears have a lot of money for a free agent class filled with linemen. But where are you guys at with Derek Carr? Thinking of snagging him as a cheap QB3. What do you guys value Carr at?
Good, Scott.
No, I like Carr. I actually talked about him in the last show as one of those guys where all the peripherals kind of line up for Carr. He should be a little better than what he is. And I definitely think that you can buy him similar to where you can buy Cousins, because I actually think the market sees him as even more volatile than Cousins. I think they look at the Raiders and they're like, the Raiders stink. I've already seen people rumbling about, Adams isn't working out. They can get out of Carr's contract after this year. I I would bet against that if that's the chatter that people are kind of wanting to get out of Carr. I think it's much more likely they just go back to him and run it back for one more year because it's a brand new coaching staff. Like I know that they didn't bring Carr in. He's been there well before them, but to think that they just cast him off and get somebody else, I think they just probably run it back one more year. If it's the same next year and they're under 500 and they're bad, then you're worried. Then you're worried like legitimately he may not land on his feet. But I'm good with buying Carr right now because I think he's one of those guys that if you did a startup today, you'd have people taking him. Honestly, you'd see like Zach Wilson probably going over Carr because people just don't like him. They're just out on the Raiders because they have this game the other day where they score no points. They're not going to make the playoffs. They're seen as like a bust because they're not as good as people thought they would be. So I'd be actually buying Carr.
Yeah, as a QB3, he's fine, and this is a perfect time to buy him when everything's not going right for him. Even if he's not a starter in Las Vegas next year, he's a starter somewhere. Like he's definitely a guy that's going to get at least a starting shot somewhere else. He's shown to be, I don't want to say game manager, but he's like a better game manager. He's better than a game manager, right? So there's no way that he doesn't get a job somewhere next year.
He has said he's only playing for the Raiders.
Yeah, well, I say lots of things. So
I'm just saying he might be one of those guys where it ends after the Raiders. I don't know. Maybe there's some Raiders fans that can chime in, but he has said he's only playing for the Raiders. He's not going anywhere else.
And just quick one-word answer here, yes or no. Would you give a 24 first from if you just wanted to buy him outright?
No.
Man. No, but that's just because I don't really want to because I don't think I have to. But push come to shove on the right team, especially if we get a lot of roster reviews where people have like 5 23 firsts and 2 24 firsts. In those circumstances where you're going to be up against roster spots with a lot of flexibility to move around, move back, then I'd be more than willing to do it. If I just have my stock of picks and I have a team where I go, I kind of need Derek Carr, doesn't that smell like that's the exact situation you shouldn't be trading your future first for a guy like Derek Carr? If you think you need him and you have no other extra picks, that's probably the team where you go, you should just use some discipline and don't do it. Right, Shane?
Yeah, if you said yes, I need you to understand that we're in several leagues together where I have Carr and that you would have gotten that offer immediately. And now I'm going to offer you Carr in a second for a 24 first and see if we can make that work.
Ooh. Keep us posted. To be continued. If I'm trading Kenneth Walker and Alec Pierce for JT, what should be added on the other side?
Truthfully, is he asking what should be added to the JT side?
Right there? Yeah, right. No, what else? Well, we were just saying earlier, you don't know straight up. They're kind of similar now, which is wild. But does anything have? Is that a good enough offer for JT? I mean, I guess it comes down to the JT owner making that decision.
If I'm buying JT, I'm not adding Alec Pierce.
Right.
I'm actually adding something to the JT side if I'm getting that package and let the other person tell me you're crazy. Kenneth Walker's not better than Jonathan Taylor. But that's where I'm starting. I'm not starting with the Kenneth Walker and Alec Pierce for JT. I think it's straight up.
That's a free Alec Pierce. That's a top 40 wide receiver just for funsies. Like, here you go.
All right. Yeah. Look at how far we've come, right? Running backs, man.
I mean, that's how fast the running back landscape moves.
Yeah, man.
That's how fast it moves. It isn't even us coming that far. It's literally the results have spoken for.
Look, and just like we predicted, Seattle was going to have a much better offense than Indianapolis. We obviously saw that coming. So.
Coach Ali, thank you for the super chat, my friend. 8-man start 10 super flex gave Jahan Dotson for Calvin Ridley. And he's got the emoji.
I'm fine with that because I don't think that Jahan Dotson's particularly a needle mover. And I've talked before, we were talking about like portfolio and having too many James Cook. I felt that way about Jahan Dotson, so I started moving him in a couple leagues. So especially if I have a lot of Jahan Dotson, I'm like, this isn't a bad price to get in on Ridley because we've seen Ridley put up top 15 wide receiver seasons. Like we know that's in his range of outcomes if he can just put down the FanDuel account for like an hour.
This is one of those game theory moves where what has a better shot of being the piece someone else will want when it matters for you to make a big trade, and it feels like it's Ridley.
Yeah.
Yep. Exactly. That's where my head's on at it too. Is like he could be a more live asset. more likely to be able to be traded for a bigger package. I like it. Okay, and he happened to be the one who made me that Calvin Ridley offer. Zach Linton, also known as FF Uncle Piff. Thank you very much for the super chat, man. Trying to dump Hawk, need an RB desperately. 10-team superflex, start 9. Also willing to throw in Dalton or Jimmy G. Who should I be targeting? So he wants to. We can leave the QBs out for now, but what's a comp? Hawk for what RB?
Jeez.
I mean,
it's not a tight end premium.
So would you rather have Hockenson than David Montgomery?
Right now, no. I mean, that's usually just that's one of those I wouldn't feel dirty about either side. I probably
Miles Sanders.
I take Miles Sanders.
To trade Hawk for Miles Sanders.
That's like the range you're in. If you can get one of those RB2s in a good offense, like you just kind of chase the good offense. But it also feels like Miles Sanders or like that type of running back could literally disappear overnight. That's the only thing. But I mean, really, what is Hockenson? Like.
Maybe Hawk and Jimmy G if the other team needs a QB for Josh Jacobs. Kind of mess around in that area.
Yeah, if you can get Josh Jacobs, you can get Miles Sanders. They're different, obviously, types of players, and one's on an elite offense. Like I think it's crazy. I prefer Miles Sanders because Miles Sanders is more likely to one that can, have 9 touches and then still give you a 15-point week because one of those just happened to be a 25-yard touchdown because the defense is so pressed that Jalen Hurts is going to run it up their throats, even though he only ran 2 times. So I'd probably take Sanders.
I'd be willing to add like a second and try to go get like Derrick Henry or someone like that. Like give me somebody that if I'm working with an asset that's just going to expire at any moment, and the community is going to treat every single one of them just like they're, what can you do for me right now? Aim high and be able to settle for the Miles Sanders of the world, But I'd start at the top and be like, all right, can I get Kamara? Can I get Derrick Henry? You're probably going to whiff on all those guys. But start there. You never know if somebody is looking at those players
where their head is at,
and waiting for the offer to where they can get younger. And you throw a second and Hockenson, and then maybe you have something to work with. So I'd start higher than probably where he is.
I'll tell you what, man. If I can get Derrick Henry in any league, I'm buying. I've given up. He doesn't count. He's not. Anything we've ever said about running backs before doesn't apply to him.
Yep. Thank you again, Uncle Piff. Hopefully we helped you out there. Okay, Ty, Mahomes and Pollard for Hurts, Swift, and a 23 first.
Man, feels like the value's on the Hurts, Swift, and the 23 first side, yet.
Where is that? Okay, so let's just say it was a mid 23 first.
Dude, I'll take the 23 first, Hurts and Swift. Hurts is in Mahomes' tier. You have to say it at this point. Hurts is a complete football player now. You know how many rushing attempts he had last week? 2 for 10 yards. And even then, you almost had to force him to run, dude. If he wants to be, he'll just sit back there and pick you apart as a pocket passer. And if he can't do that, he's going to run for 150 yards.
And then Shane is trading DeAndre Swift within 3 seconds.
Oh, yeah. Swift is gone.
Even. Yeah,
Swift is gone. Swift in that 23 first. I'm going to go see if I can get me a really Jamar Chase since his hips fractured and see if I can do that. But
yeah, Shane would be like, hey guys, I'm about to hit accept on this offer where I'm getting Swift. I wanted to let you know he's on the block.
That's where you use the 3-way trade in Sleeper.
Yeah.
Try to find somebody else that's willing to just swoop it and take Swift.
I have trust issues. I don't want to involve a third party because I'm scared they might take the trade for themselves and I'll be standing in the corner with the trade. I don't want to do that.
Yeah, that could be gross. So we have 342 people in here. Thank you very much for joining. Much appreciated, man. We got a World Series going on, but
if you could just give us a like, you know what I mean? Just make me feel good about the Phillies.
Yeah. Hit a like if you're not subscribed and you're on here. Fix your life. Hit subscribe. Yeah.
Only 127 likes. We need to get that up.
Yeah,
we can
thumbs up.
We can do that.
Maybe we just haven't been that good this episode. I don't know what to tell you.
Maybe we've been kind of weak this episode.
Yeah, no. Got to bring it harder.
That's what she said. Okay, so let's put this one up here. Should I be trying to move Dubs and an early second for DJ Moore, or Dubs and a second for Ridley?
For DJ Moore, yes.
Yeah.
Ridley, listen, I still like Dubs. I think he's shown enough that the only thing that's I think going to drive his value is going to be what happens with Rodgers. There's just a lot that people are wary to invest in anything Green Bay, anything Rodgers, because he's unpredictable in terms of what his future is going to be.
Yeah.
But I kind of feel like there's a shot that, Dubs is going to have a really good shot the rest of the year to continue to produce. So, I don't hate getting the second in Dubs for Ridley. I think that's a good process trade on the other side because you're getting that second for Ridley and you're getting a receiver that's having a decent rookie year on top of it. But the other one for DJ Moore, I think Shane and I both would take the DJ Moore side. He's too good. He's too good.
Take the DJ Moore. So it's funny when DJ Moore is getting 25% target shares, he can't really produce for fantasy at a great level. But now that he's getting a 35% target share over the last 3 weeks, it's pretty good. Pretty good, Bob.
But he's good enough to just go out and go, he can get 35%, he's that good to where it's like it can continue to stay there for the short term. So
especially considering the circumstances of it's Terrace Marshall, CMC is gone, even if they add a wide receiver in the draft. So I'd go with DJ Moore there. I don't know about Ridley. The Dubs feels like a little extra. Like the second feels like, look, I'm taking enough of a gamble here on Ridley that I don't want to throw in a dart throw wide receiver as well.
Yeah. Josh, thank you very much for the super chat, man. Half PPR. Josh is rebuilding. Just gave up Heinz for Ridley straight up today and traded JT and Brees last week for 3 firsts, all projected top 6. Thoughts?
That's how you smash. That's awesome.
That's how you smash.
You did good. I probably want another first, but I know it's impossible running backs. But 3 top 6 picks. Yeah, dude, you're going to put yourself in a position where if you make those picks, you should be in a good spot next year. Or if you wanted to go ahead and reallocate some of those and break a couple of those picks up or one of them up, you're also going to be in a good spot. And Heinz is a trash can. I think we've discussed that.
Half PPR too. Someone took Heinz for Ridley. I don't get that. Like, great job, Josh. Great job.
His 3 rushing attempts a game is really going to look good in a half PPR.
He's great in point per carry formats, right? So Heinz for Ridley straight up. You like that?
Yeah.
That's a good move for people to do if they can do it. Yep. Okay. Thank you, Josh. Appreciate that. Nicely done with those 3 firsts. Take care of them. Treat them well. Let's go on to another one here. Joe, thank you for the question. Look at that Eagles avatar.
I didn't even look at his trade. I literally just started because of that.
Good job, Joe. 10-man PPR Superflex start 10 being offered ETN and Godwin for Lamb. Do you like that? Other wide receivers are Other wide
Godwin's very good. So if that's what it takes to get, you're basically getting Godwin on top of a straight up swap. I think I'd probably prefer Lamb over ETN, but this is almost a free Godwin. So I would take that and then probably shop ETN, see if you can get 2 firsts for him.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a great trade.
And then you immediately trade Swift and get that over with because he has value again this week because he did that thing that he rarely does is play football. He played football. So
yeah. So if that's in your inbox, Joe, hit accept. Get you the
Eagles fans there. Just know how to play Dynasty, don't they?
Oh, they're just incredible.
It's you got to be tough in Philly, right? You got to have strategy on how not to get carjacked, how not to get shot. So you can apply that strategy to anything.
This is a good name here on YouTube. Oh yeah, here we go, buddy. Thank you for the super chat. Swift for London and a mid to late 23 second 12-team super flex not competing.
Yes.
Yep. Take it.
Done.
Great trade. I'm done. Sometimes I wonder when somebody offers that. I'm sure they're probably very upset at Drake London for not being playable at all. But it just feels like unless you are absolutely desperate, doesn't it feel like you could probably replicate Swift's production for just cheaper than that? Wouldn't you be fishing around with that second to see what running back you could buy for the second? Wouldn't you rather go buy Jamal Williams?
Herbert?
Jamal Williams for that
Yeah.
second rather than pay for Swift and give up Drake London.
So the way, I mean, I know what the person's thinking is like, oh, I'm getting Swift cheap because he hasn't played football in 5 out of the last 10 months. And they just traded TJ Hockenson, so his target share should go up. So this is a good deal for me because Swift is about to be, look, if Swift ever stayed on the field for all 17 games, however many games they are, and all 17 of those games, like he's definitely one of those running backs that we said could be a top 5 running back. It's just, is he going to do it?
Yeah, he just wouldn't get banged up, man. He's such a talented guy. He's just always banged up, and he doesn't get enough total touches to really,
Well, that's because he's not actually a good running back. I mean,
Hmm.
from what I've seen, his yards per carry is not good. It's not.
He needs to be moved into like Antonio Gibson's role, but without JD McKissick, where he's getting 10 targets a game and no carries.
Yeah.
Like maybe 5 carries a game. And I think he could be very good. He could do great on 12 to 15 touches because he can do a lot with the receptions or the targets that he gets. But yeah, I agree with Shane.
It's crazy. I mean, he's great in open space. It's just maybe I don't know line play, but for whatever reason, his running is not great, Bob.
Yep. And I should say too, we're coming up on what's the time here?
9:27.
So if you wouldn't mind cut the super chats. We've got a bunch starred here. We're gonna hit some non super chats too, and we can't go too late on this live stream tonight. One of us is a little bit under the weather. It's not Shane. Shane's fine. Shane seems to be doing quite well. All right, let's go on to Koogski here. / Gardner Minshew. We see you every week here. Thank you as always. 11-3 contender, super flex, 12 team, start 11. Oh yeah, this is that 1.74 tight end premium. Lance on IR, can't move. Ryan, Winston, Flacco on the bench, and QB1 Gino is carrying me. Buy Mariota for a second, or get Dalton plus a wide receiver for a second. Don't have needs at wide receiver or running back for what it's worth.
I'd rather get Dalton than a wide receiver for a second. At least Dalton's going to throw the ball once in a while.
The guy I want to buy, if you can get him for a second, is Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy Garoppolo. All he's got to do is just distribute the ball. His peripherals look pretty good. And the problem with Jimmy G, you're buying him for the rest of the year. And then if he has a good year, then he's going to leave and go somewhere else. And it's going to be like, ooh, now he's on the Texans and they have no weapons. And ouch, I don't want Jimmy G anymore. But rest of the season, I want Jimmy G. I feel very confident just starting him. This is the perfect team. Sounds like his quarterbacks are all dust. And he's the perfect guy I would fish around for a second. I'd even add like a small piece to a second to get Jimmy G. But I'd much rather have him over Dalton.
And then you win a championship with Jimmy G and Geno Smith in your league hate you.
Then you're then you're epic. Like you just maybe just retire. Maybe just orphan it. No, that's awesome. So Jimmy G, would you give 2 seconds for him if you were in his spot? Trying to shore up that.
If I can get 2 seconds, if I can give 2 seconds, but I also get back like a spot start running back, like a Deontay Foreman or someone like that, I'm okay with it. But just straight up, I mean, I'd rather try to get out of not having to blow that second on him.
Got it.
So yeah, I'd rather not do that.
I'm not cheap. I would do it.
Shane would do it. Austin traded Josh Jacobs for a late first and Pacheco. Fair trade?
Yeah, you got a first for Josh Jacobs.
I mean, a month ago we would have been like, "Oh my God, Josh Jacobs! Someone gave you a first," and so yeah, just that is the perfect process trade because we don't even like Pacheco much, but he's the perfect running back. Oh, I have a roster spot to fill. Let me just throw him in another running back on a good team. Let's see what happens. So yeah, great job.
Get a first. Yep. Okay. Let's hide this one here. What else are we going to talk about? I'm going to throw this up here, see if this gets anything going. Hot take. Fields is a top 6 dynasty QB.
That is incorrect. I like Fields. I'm higher on Fields than some people, but I'm not that high, bro. That top 6 is pretty good when you talk about Mahomes, Allen, Herbert, Hurts, Deshaun Watson, Lamar Jackson. Like it's pretty tough.
I saw someone post Fields over T-Law.
Oh, that was me. I did that.
I thought it was you.
Yeah, I would take Fields over T-Law. Although that was before the Ridley trade. Now I have to think about it. But look, when you're on a team like Chicago that goes out and gets you help, like Chase Claypool, it's time to start believing on what they're building.
Where are you at on that one, Scott? Fields over T-Law?
I can get behind that. I think they're probably in the same tier. They're both top 12 dynasty quarterbacks by default because you start going down the line and it's like, ooh, you get to like QB 10 and you're like, man,
Am I putting
I
Russell
don't
Wilson
have
in
the
here?
stones to draft Russell Wilson in a
Yeah.
startup, like I don't really want to fish in these waters. Top 6 though. I mean, come on. Are you really putting him over Burrow or Lamar or, it's hard to put him up in that range. But, I guess here's the thing. We get into startup season in a couple months here. Where does that like quarterback 9 through 12 range go? Where does the Lance, Lawrence, Fields range go? Because in the last 2 years, it's been
in the
top
in the
15.
second. Yeah.
So if you are chasing the team that took Allen, if you're a team that took like the top 5 quarterbacks, if you're trying to chase the build that they have, but yours are Lawrence and Fields, it just feels like you might be way behind in points because you're trying to keep up with the quarterbacks, and those teams end up with their QB2, Kirk Cousins, and they still smash you.
Yeah.
It's like, where do we adjust this year on, like, does QB 10 Justin Fields not go till round 3 of the startup? What do you guys think? Because I think it's interesting to think about.
I doubt it, just because I think Dynasty hates running backs and startups. Superflex, we're always going to love quarterbacks, right? And we're going to look at, well, which quarterbacks could be that guy? Which guy could be Jalen Hurts, right? Who can just like Jalen Hurts was like, we comped him like, oh, he could be like Josh Allen, who's a terrible passer, and then all of a sudden he becomes a good one. You look at Justin Fields and you go, well, that looks like the blueprint for Jalen Hurts. Like, I don't know if they're similar in any type of way whatsoever, but I could see that progression, especially if Fields plays as well as he has the last few weeks.
So, Shane, if you're at the 1-2 turn, are you taking Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence at the 1-2 turn?
No. I'm not putting both my eggs in that basket. That's too many eggs in one fragile basket.
Would you pick one of those Fields?
Yeah, and it'd be Fields. Right now, I'd be more comfortable at Fields because of the rushing upside, right? Because this is what we've seen from other quarterbacks that have that rushing ability that have eventually turned into something else, right? Like, they've shown like, well, okay, I had this to lean on until I can actually be a complete passer, like Jalen Hurts, one of the best passers in the league.
I mean, are you doing that, Clay? Are you taking him that high?
Nah. I'll take him end of the second, early third.
No, he won't be there.
Then he won't get him.
All right, I'm just saying.
And Shane, you're going to be taking Hurts and then making a move to stack AJ Brown there.
That's probably more correct. But look, I don't want to be in another position again where, I did it in a couple startups where I was like, all right, let me see how far I can go down at quarterback. I'll take Aaron Rodgers and Ryan Tannehill. I should be fine. I don't want to go through that again. But I don't also want to do the Fields T-Law stack together where they could both just absolutely eviscerate my roster forever.
Andy, thank you for the super chat, my friend. Still high on London. Sold DJ Moore a 23-201 and a 24 second for him before this last week. So gave DJ Moore the 201 and a 24 second for Drake London. What do you think about that?
No, it's a great trade. I love that trade.
Yeah, I mean, you got to be high on London just for the market share that he's putting together as a rookie. Even though it's fallen the last couple weeks, like, you still have to be high on that. It's just going to be interesting to see if it translates to. We've only seen it in a really small sample size, but yeah, that's not a terrible price. You're basically throwing a couple seconds at a receiver that. The funny thing is, we can look up in 3 years and go, Drake London is basically DJ Moore, and. You're going like, when is his situation going to change? And it's year 4, and he's never really been in like an awesome situation. So I don't know.
What are they going to do? What are they going to do at QB next year? Who's throwing the ball to Drake London and Kyle Pitts next year?
Here's my hot take. Lamar Jackson will be a Falcon. Oh. I think they go all in with what they were in on Watson, right? I think they put the same thing on the table for Lamar. And I think the Panthers could too, although the Panthers, if they get the 101, I don't see them saying, let's trade the 101 for Lamar Jackson. But I can see the Falcons going to the Ravens and saying, all right, we know you're not committed to Lamar Jackson because clearly they haven't signed him. Here's 2 firsts and a couple players and a couple extra picks, and we'll give him whatever contract he wants. 5 years, $60 million a year, fully guaranteed, whatever Watson was, plus 20%. Like, I could see that.
Him indoors, freaking running around. I could see that. I could see him in that uniform.
Yep.
I could see that. Okay, let's thank you very much for the super chat, man. Hide that. Let's put up a question here. Faith traded 2 mid to late 23 firsts and a random 25 firsts for the 101 Mitchell and Wilson. This was prior to the CMC trade. Okay, so traded. Yeah, I mean, what are your thoughts on that? A mid 23 first, a late 23 first, and a 25 first for the 101.
Love it. Because you got 2 extra running backs thrown in that could be basically backups to fragile ass running backs right now. Like, you got Jeff Wilson's going to back up Mostert and Elijah Mitchell behind McCaffrey. They're both injuries away to, I mean, what would you say? Mostert and McCaffrey are probably 2 of the most, like, 5 to 10 injury prone running backs in the league. And you get the 101 and 25 first don't count.
No, they don't. I mean, look, you
that's a great trade.
I like it.
You gave up 3 firsts for the 101. That's a lot. I'm not that enamored with Mitchell and Wilson because they have their own issues.
I mean, they're backups. They're placeholders.
Yeah.
Mid to late firsts. I'm going to assume this is late and say, okay, yeah, I can do that. And again, the 25 first, I don't care about. It's not real yet.
I can't wait till we have a glimpse at the 25 class.
It's a good class. It's a good class. It's
yeah.
Just,
well, I told you I like the
3 years down the
4th
road.
round. I like the 4th round of the 25 class. All right, thank you for the question, Faith. Let's go to another one here. Would you trade Jamar Chase for 323 firsts?
How bad is my team? Probably.
Yes. It's the 3 first rule, and all 3 of these happen to be in 23.
I don't know. What is it? Maybe it's a start 6.
If it's 1 QB start 6, that's different. We're assuming just our advice comes from a 12-team Superflex start 10 default. So yes, in that format or anything deeper, I'm taking the picks. In a 1 QB start 6, take the best player. Although Shane would probably still go, man, I like those picks. Those are fun to play in the sandbox with.
Yeah, they are. But no, this is a good deal. You're getting 3 firsts for any player, and I'm assuming that's not a quarterback in a super flex. That's pretty hard.
So if you were contending right now and you've got Jamar Chase and you need another wide receiver, what kind of move are you making? Are you holding him and doing everything you can to just hold him and not sell Jamar Chase, or are you willing to move him for insert trade package?
So I was willing to move him for that hour and a half where I thought his hip was absolutely damaged. But I wouldn't accept CD Lamb in an early 23 first. So I'd say his value didn't go down a lot for me. I'm just holding on from everything I read online, which is, always the place you want to go. His hip's going to be fine. He'll be all right.
So you're not making this trade, Shane. Even if you're contending, you don't have Chase, and now you figure you can maybe buy rest of the season production with one of those first, and you can bank the other 2.
Oh, no, I said I would do this. I would do this. Yeah,
you would do this.
Yeah, I would do this. The only way I wouldn't do this is if I don't know. Like I said, like literally, it's got to be like start 6.
Would you trade in our 12-team start 10 Superflex? Would you trade Jamar Chase for Jalen Waddle and a mid 23 first right now?
If you did, what's the worst thing that can happen? You end up with a wide receiver 12 instead of a wide receiver 5, and you net the extra first. Like Waddle any week could be. Yeah, I was looking a little more into the Miami offense. The one thing that's awesome about the Miami offense, it is the most concentrated offense in the league to 2 players. Like you look at 75% of their fantasy points go to 2 players. It's not like the Bengals are concentrated. Basically everything goes to 4 or 5 players, but I'd rather have 2 players than 4 or 5.
Yeah.
So
it's like Tyreek and Kansas City.
Yeah, the worst you can
he
do with
brings the
Waddle.
concentration.
Worst you can do with Waddle is okay. It's a little bit of a downgrade, so I don't hate it.
All right, send me the offer. We'll make the deal.
All right. Let's put that one down. That's a good one. We'll cut that up into a TikTok. TikTok. I've got a funny graphic that's going to show up on our next ETN show that'll drop hopefully tomorrow. Colwyn Porter, thank you for the super chat. Jefferson or DJ Moore, Ken Walker, and a projected late 23 first. He thinks 109-ish. So Justin Jefferson or DJ Moore, Ken Walker, and the 109. Justin Jefferson.
I'm going Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, it's close though, because this is close to the 3 first rule here. If you assume Ken Walker is worth more than 1, right?
Yeah, I mean, if it's a start 11, maybe.
If Ken Walker is worth 1.5 to 2 firsts, and DJ Moore and the 109 are a single late first, I mean.
Yeah, but the difference being these have actual names attached to them, which is less than a pick, no matter how you look at it.
So if you could take Ken Walker out and you could get 2 firsts and the 109, so a 23 and a 24 first, call it like the 106. 106, 109, and a 24 first. You're not taking that for Jefferson?
Not if I don't have to. Well, I mean, honestly, if
you never have to.
No,
Shane.
well, what I'm saying is if I'm in a position where I'm already like, look, I've already got 2 firsts in each of those years, I'd rather just hold on to Jefferson than rather chase my tail and go, hopefully I'll hit him again. So it's going to, there's got to be context to it. I don't believe the whole in a vacuum thing. Like our friend Michael Finero says, there is no vacuum.
There is a vacuum in my dog.
There is no spoon.
Inbox trade, 12-team PPR, Superflex, tight end premium. Give DJ Moore, get a mid 24 first and mid 24 second.
Yes.
You taking the picks? 24 first, 24 second?
Yep.
All right.
Like DJ Moore, but yeah, this is a perfect time to do that.
Yeah. Okay, Fabian, thank you for the super chat. Traded away Deontay and an early to mid third for Hollywood Brown. Not close to contending, so my goal is next season. This is a 10-man super flex league. Thoughts?
I'd rather have Deontay.
They're the same thing, but one doesn't have maybe the same injury risk that Hollywood has. So, like, I honestly, I'd almost look at both of them and say they're the same guy. But why take the injured one? Like if you're trading a lesser tier receiver for Hollywood, I like it. But I'm with Shane. I think they're basically the same. So I'd rather have Deontay in the third.
So Deontay, what are your thoughts on him with Claypool leaving? And thoughts on Pickens? I mean, more to eat on such a good. Nobody wants to touch the Steelers.
I mean, Deontay's already eating. Like if you look at his target share this year, it's basically what it's been his whole career. So it's not like he's not doing good. I mean, right now he's 27% target share for the season. Like, what more can you ask? It's a shitty team with a rookie quarterback. I mean, the quality of his targets is bad. So we're both in on Deontay. Nothing's changed about him. Nothing's changed about Hollywood Brown except for his injury. That's it.
No. Yeah, no, I'm buying Deontay. I'd love that if anyone's like Deontay. 6-0. Deontay's a guy that people didn't like anyway, right? And I got it. After his rookie season, I was the same dude. I was like, all he does is it's just a lot of volume because I was a Juju stan, right? And I wanted to believe that Juju was better. And then after his second year, I was like, all right, well, maybe it's kind of him. And then after his third year, I'm like, this is just who he is. He's a target hog. And he's going to be what's the word I'm looking for? His production is going to be a little bit dependent on quarterback. You know what I mean? Like even when he had Ben, so he just needed like not even a good quarterback, but he just needed his targets not to be god awful. And that's all that needs to happen. And he'll be back up to speed. And Kenny Pickett can't be this bad. And if he is, well, the Steelers will have an early pick next year, right?
Andy, thank you for the super chat. Destination Devy podcast rocks. Yeah, listen to Scott on Destination Dynasty. 12-team super flex. Would you try to move up from Kyler to Justin Herbert, and how much would you pay? Other QB is Deshaun Watson. 6 point per pass touchdown, -1 for INTs. Would you want to move up from Kyler to Herbert? It's the first question. Yes.
Yep.
What
Yep.
would you pay 2 seconds? So a 23 second and a 24 second.
I would. Yep.
I'll give you 1 second.
I'd
1
rather
second.
take a receiver that I can't get a first for and get a second back, but make it seem like I'm giving the other person a good player, right? Like a receiver, name a receiver you can't get a first for. Like I don't think you can get a first for like Rashad Bateman.
Chase
Ayuk,
Claypool. Yeah, Brandon
Ayuk,
Ayuk.
Kyler and Ayuk for Herbert.
Yeah, like a receiver where you can say I probably want a first, but nobody's actively paying a first.
Right.
But I also wouldn't accept a second. So it makes it seem like the other person is getting the advantage there, but really you're also still accomplishing the liquidation by getting a pick back, and it's not just a 2-for-1. Where you get in trouble is it's like you add a top 24 receiver plus Kyler just for one player. Like I'd rather try to get the second back. So yeah, but I want to in that format, yes. Herbert. I want to buy Herbert, yes.
Yeah, Herbert is very, very attainable. That's for sure.
Yeah, I won't want to do it. I mean, in a vacuum, I don't want to do it with Kyler. You know what I mean? If I got Kyler and Deshaun, I'm probably happy as a bag of clams. But I could see if you want to move up to Herbert, right? Because Herbert's fantasy scoring is a little prettier than Kyler's, right? We at one point we look up at last week and we're like 7-0. You, Houston. You're a horrible town with horrible people. So at one point we look up and we're like, Kyler's got like 9 points, right? And then the fourth quarter happens, and you're like, next time you look and you're like, how's he got 25 fantasy points? Like, and it's every week he does it, right?
Yep.
And I understand, like when you watch Herbert, it's just pretty. It's just pretty all the time. It's like, oh, I see how he earned those points, where it feels like we don't know how Kyler got there. Like it feels unearned somehow.
Yeah, it's like back in the day with Matthew Stafford. He would be like when he was with Detroit, he would do nothing, but then he would throw 400 yards in the second half. All right, Dave O, let's get you up there. 12-team Superflex PPR start 10 rebuilding. Give Cortland Sutton and Khalil Herbert. Get Michael Pittman and Kareem Hunt. Thanks for the videos full of unique takes. Thank you, Dave. And look at how he's formatting this question here. This looks exactly like how I do it. It's so pretty there. Thank you, Dave O. What are your thoughts, guys? Rebuilding.
I'm okay with
Sutton,
it because he's going from Sutton
Pittman
to Pittman. I'd rather have Herbert over Hunt, but they're running back, so I'd rather take the more insulated piece, I think, at receiver. I'm okay with doing this.
Yeah,
it's a neutral win, though. Really all you're getting is the years on Pittman.
I like Pittman over Sutton. And, even though the majority of folks or the populace should like Herbert over Hunt based on their production, I think Hunt still has more name cachet than Khalil Herbert, and I think I could then turn around and flip Kareem Hunt easier than I could Khalil Herbert.
Yep. Okay, let's see. We have 360 people in here still. That's awesome. Thank you for joining us. Hopefully you hit that thumbs up. How are we doing on thumbs up? Like, please, Shane.
It's not great. I'm not going to lie to you. It's at 199, but now it's at 200. Okay. Thank you, people. Appreciate y'all. I mean, look, we've got more likes than we had views during our first live stream. So yeah, I can't complain.
Yeah, I was about to say more likes than we did views on our Jalen Hurts show, which I think was our second overall. Go back and listen to that, see how things have changed. Ariston Crane, thank you for the question. Shane, do cranes fly? That's obviously from a roster review. Thanks for the roster review. 12-team, 1 QB, PPR, start 8. Gave Dalvin, Alexander Madison, Jerry Jeudy. Got Pittman, Edmonds, and a mid 23 first and second. Continued. So he's got another message that you're gonna have to dig up. But what are your thoughts on that first part, Scott, while Shane tries to find it? Gave Dalvin, Madison, Jeudy, got Pittman, Edmonds, and the first and second.
I mean, I think you can probably look at Pittman and Jeudy. The market probably prefers Pittman. I think they're probably very similar.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're getting the picks for Dalvin Cook and Madison. And I mean, I know Edmonds just got traded today, so we'll see what kind of becomes of him. But I'm okay doing this because if you just wash out Pittman and Jeudy, maybe there's a second between the two. I still like getting the picks for Dalvin Cook.
Yep.
It's a start 8. So he's going to have to use those picks to find a creative way to consolidate elsewhere. But I like kind of the strategy behind getting out for those guys on picks. So good deal. Good job.
I also like this deal, and I'm looking for the other question. I don't know where the hell it is, though.
Well, Harrison, if you're still in here, maybe you can throw it in to the top of the chat for us. West Coast Chiefer, keep trade cut, Beverly Hills 90210, Dawson's Creek, One Tree Hill.
Okay, so you got to keep One Tree Hill because I'm a music guy. If you know me on Twitter at all, you know I'm a giant music freak. And One Tree Hills, the songs they had on there, some of the greatest, like emo, adult contemporary, like just City in Color, Death Cab for Cutie, Jesus, who else? Iron and Wine, just great music, just a great soundtrack. That the show was wretched, right? There was a scene where a dog ate a heart. Well, there's a scene where a dog ate a heart, where Dan's getting his heart delivered to him, and apparently he's getting a heart transplant, and they were delivering his heart in a beer cooler, best I could tell, and it fell, and the dog was in the hospital for some reason. The dog ate his heart. So the show had its issues, but you got to keep One Tree Hill. I would trade Dawson's Creek. I think people remember that fondly, even though they shouldn't. But I think I can get some value for it. I'm going to cut Beverly Hills 90210 because I got to be honest with you. The original, watching it, it's very cringe.
Very cringe. They recorded Dawson's Creek and One Tree Hill where I went to school, Wilmington, North Carolina. They used to record it right down the street, and you could be an extra if you quit class.
Great soundtrack. Great soundtrack.
I got to say, you know why we got that question? Because of the America's Game, where I said those are my 3 favorite shows.
Oh, that's hilarious.
That's why we got those 3. And now Shane is sitting here telling me all about One Tree Hill. Like literally, Shane and I could probably do a One Tree Hill podcast.
I need you to understand. I never actually watched the show. Okay. I just sat there disapprovingly while my ex-wife would watch the show, and I would just make snide remarks.
Right. Shane used to be married, so there's a potential that he had to forcibly watch.
I used to just, I could have gone into the other room. I just didn't.
14-team Superflex start 10. Give Olave and Lance. Get Watson.
Yeah, 14-team Superflex. You just got yourself a top 6 quarterback. Good move for you.
I'm in on this. Yep. But this is a great way to do it. It's an expensive price, but yeah, I like doing this. And I can also see where the Watson manager is liking the cash out here, right? If they believe in Lance, like that's probably a pretty strong price. Good job.
Yep. Okay, we've got a few 7-0 Shane. We've got a few starred here. We've got a couple super chats and a couple non-super chats. So thank you. Keep holding those super chats. We're gonna knock out what we have and then call it an evening. Brett just received in the inbox. Give Donovan Peoples-Jones. Get Calvin Ridley.
Yes.
Yep. Done.
Yeah. I like that one. I like DPJ too, but yep. Alan, this is just a shout out to us. It's the best Dynasty content on YouTube. Smash the like button. These guys are great. We appreciate you. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Alan.
This show's come a long way. It's been a lot of fun. Brian, super chat. Thank you, sir. 10-team, 1 QB, rebuilding, PPR, Ayuk, and the 107 to 110. Or the 103 to 106 plus a 24 second. So which side? Ayuk and the, like a mid late or an early mid and a second?
Give me the early to mid and the second.
Yeah, he doesn't say how many starters, but I'm guessing if it's 10-team, 1 QB, it's probably like start 9 or start 10.
Mm-hmm.
So in that case, like you're hoping that is the 103 versus the 110 versus it's the 106 and the 107, because then you're going to go, I would probably trade down one spot. But I think it's worth the gamble if you hit on the 103 or 104 and there's a tier of like 4 elite players, then I think you'd rather have that side. So I'll lean the higher side with the second.
Right. And then even if you let's say you end up with just a 106 and you're like, dude, I literally just traded Brandon Ayuk to move up one spot. At least you got the second to buttress it.
Yep. Okay, let's hide this one here. And then Jacob posted this, says, got to head out early. Thanks, guys. Trades in the chat. And we've got his trade here. 12 team. Thank you for the super flex, man. For the super flex, you can tell how far we're in if I'm calling super chat super flexes. 12 team PPR super flex start 10. The 102/103 for Ken Walker, contending and have been holding this first.
I want the one.
So that's either one, not both of them combined, is the way I read it.
Yeah, it's either going to be the 102, 103 single pick for Ken Walker.
Listen, YOLO. If you want to do it, I'm not going to say no because you're probably targeting a running back in that spot. So it feels gross because you're kind of like, man, every time I trade away a pick for a running back, I'm scared that my running back's going to be the one that turns to dust, and then I'd much rather have the pick. But I get it, contending. Let me just say this. If he is truly a running back away, okay. But we get a lot of these questions, and it's like, man, I feel weak at running back. Then you see their running backs, and they have like 3 of the top 12. And it's like, I don't have enough depth in case 2 of them tear their ACL. And you can't prepare for that. So, no, it really just depends on his roster. But it's a fair deal. I wonder what Shane says because he loves the 102, but he loves Ken Walker.
I am fine with this. Just like Scott said, look, in season, things change. You want to win a title, right? If you're legitimately like, this is the my one weakness, you know what I mean? This is going to add 4 points to my roster every week. Go do it.
Yeah. Yep. Get you that ship. Okay. We just got this last super chat up here. Thank you, Sony. How much extra to move from Kyler to Watson?
More than I'm probably comfortable paying. And I would say that you shouldn't have to, considering that there are still risks with Deshaun Watson. So I wouldn't be actually, this is kind of similar to the Herbert thing. Like, I'm not completely that comfortable. A second. I'll give you a second.
I think when you can say either side could be tempted by getting the free second, then you're okay with it. I would prefer Watson because I think he's just better.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually trust, this sounds crazy, but I trust the Browns offense way more than I trust the Cardinals, just with what they've done with Brissett. And I'm more excited. I think there's a chance that Watson comes back and is more of a difference maker than Kyler's going to be. So I would take Watson over Kyler, but yeah, I'm not adding anything more than a second. A second is just the tax to get the other manager to feel like they won the deal.
Yeah, just on that front, I will say the Browns offense is it's 1,000% more innovative than Kyler, fake Sharp Kingsbury's offense. That dude is a doofus.
Yeah, he is. All right. This is the last starred one here. So we got one more that just popped up. So we'll do these two. What would you do with Breece Hall in an Empire League where the pots build until someone wins the league 2 years in a row? I'm contending right now. Sell. Hope I can win this year and hold for next.
I mean, we're already selling Breece Hall from our last video, but the pressure's on to not hold it's an Empire League, right? Like you want to win now. So it's even, I think, more imperative that you shop him. It doesn't mean you just sell him for nothing, but I think if you get the dynasty going rate for Breece Hall, if you can get a first or another high-end running back because people think that he's a dynasty top 5 running back, like, I'm doing it.
Yeah, you got to do that. You got to worry about winning this year in the Empire League first before that second championship or third championship or whatever. Let's get that first one out of the way, like this first Phillies World Series championship, you know what I mean, to start the dynasty.
Let's pop this one up here, and then don't let me forget, I told this guy on Twitter that I would read his, and I want to be a man of my word. Aaron, he says, thanks for the roster review. Took your advice and moved Breece, Russ, and Ramondre for Lamar, Goff, and Dobbins. Then moved Goff for Elijah Moore and Sky Moore. Nice little second trade there too.
Yeah, man, that's a very risky Moore trade, but hopefully those guys can come out of it and actually be useful at some point.
I mean, you're moving Goff, who is a flatline dead asset that no one has wanted for years.
Yeah.
In a rebuilding roster for, Elijah Moore and Sky Moore. It doesn't take a lot for you to get some value recouped on those guys. So great deal. I mean, he ended up basically Breece, Russ, and Ramondre for Lamar, Dobbins, Elijah Moore, Sky Moore. He got the best player in the deal, and he got 3 players that have a path. So good job, Aaron.
Yeah, now if I could trade Dobbins for a second, I'd go do that too. But that's just me.
Okay, now this last one that I said I was going to bring up from Twitter. It's kind of a long one. It'd be better if it had something on the something on the screen with a bubble, because he's asking about if we should do something with his team. But I'll try here. The question is: 10 teams, start 8, half PPR. It's a 5-year league, and then it expires. So they're in year 2 right now. He's got a bottom half roster in terms of talent, but he's 4-4 and has a good shot to make the playoffs. He's got 5 23 firsts and 5 23 seconds. And then he asks if we recommend anyone to help bolster his lineup. He's got Swift, Gibson, Murray, Foreman, Jamal Williams, couple other trash cans. Wide receivers are AJB, Pittman, DJ Moore, London, Mooney, Elijah Moore, and Palmer. He said, sorry for the long length. He was trying to give context. So what should he be doing? If he's middle of the road and he's got, a decent team or whatever, and he's got 5 23 firsts and 5 23 seconds, is this where he makes the decision? Like, hey, do I spend these picks and buy a winning team? What do you think?
Sir, it sounds like the core of his team was young, right? This is where I get into, all right, well, I'm close enough to the playoffs. I'm just going to make a run. Like, I don't need to trade all these picks to make that run. I could trade 3 of those picks, keep 2 of them, and kind of go like a half-assed, like, well, if things go wrong, they go south, then I can always trade players away. Or I have them for next year. So that's kind of what I would do. Like, I don't want to say half in, half out, but I don't want to commit all in because I do want to keep a couple of the picks, but I would move 3 of them for wide receivers or not running backs.
Yeah, I mean, this is what Shane exactly would say on a roster review is, dude, you got way too many picks. You don't want to make them all. You got a shot. Let's go spend some of them. Strategically dip your toes into the water, but don't dive all the way in. You don't want to say, I'm building the perfect team and go spend all 10 picks on 5 players.
Right.
Way too much fragility, but I'm totally fine with adding, 3 or 4 players and spending 3 or 4 of those picks and just do it strategically. I mean, the way he listed his roster, he's starting guys like Foreman, Jamal Williams, Antonio Gibson. Like, he's already kind of starting players that have very little value retainment, and he's getting points out of them. So unless he can sell those guys, he's stuck in the middle. So yeah, go buy a couple players, try to buy some insulation if you're trading away picks, and see what's going to happen, man. Good job.
And hopefully you don't have a trade deadline. That makes it even better, because when you don't have trade deadlines, then you know what you can do. You're like, look, man, if I don't win, it doesn't matter, because I'm trading some of these players to the championship contenders, and I'm going to make out like a bandit.
Yep. We'll just throw this up here. Face said, thanks, guys, for the feedback. You got my like. Your content is good. Thank you very much. Thank you for giving us the like.
Appreciate it.
We still have 330 people in here that already hit the like, I'm sure. But no, seriously, thank you so much for joining us tonight. It's awesome. It's a Tuesday? We've got a World Series on. It's just after 10, and you're still on here. So we're all Dynasty junkies, apparently. I just want to say
feels
thanks.
like the night for Dynasty content.
It's a beautiful night.
It is. It's like the right in between. I say that every week, but it feels like the perfect night where people are still riding what just happened, but we're not close enough to the weekend where it's like a bunch of sit-start questions and stuff. So this is a great time. Love it.
It's a great night for it.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thank you very much for joining, and be on the lookout for a Travis Etienne show to be coming to a subscriber inbox near you. So thanks again. We'll talk soon.
Thank you.
Be chill, y'all.